and welcome everybody. We are here today. I've actually been, there's so much going on in the world right now. We're in the midst of the pandemic, if you're not listening to it live, and we are also just in the midst of kind of riots and protests and what does everything look like going forward. So I don't necessarily want to talk about that, not for any reason. If you follow me on social, then you'll see I'm definitely willing to talk about it there and where we can be better individually and as a community. However, I felt like there is such a need right now to talk about self-care. And I know that I talk about this a good amount already, but just now more than ever, it seems like the time to focus on caring for ourselves, making sure that we are just bringing our very best self to the table. And I am a firm believer in all of the things that get you there. And that's really what I want to talk about today. So maybe some of them are no-brainers to you, and maybe some of them are not. But here's what I have to offer up to you. I am 45 years old. I am not without my share of having dealt with things. You know, we all are, right? Whether it be emotional, physical, whatever. I have a good amount of things in my past that I have had to work on or work through, let go, forgive, whatever the case may be, right? We're all there. And what keeps us from being angry and bitter about all of that? Or what keeps us showing up in a space that enables us to be our very best self? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. That is where I feel like the rubber meets the road, because, at the age of 45, I have 4 children, married to a wonderful man, but 2 biological children with him, one before him, and one that we adopted together through the foster care system. So definitely a blended family. And although I met him when my oldest was very young, not as much, if you will, to kind of deal with there in the blended. We certainly still walked through that and, had our children together. And then when our children were at about 7, 9, and 11, about that, maybe 8, 10, and 12, they're each 2 years apart, we made the decision, or finally were approved, I should say, for foster care. And we knew that we were willing to adopt. We didn't know what God wanted us to do, but we knew that we were called to this space, and we were ready for it. We were ready to kind of love on as many or as long that God would have a child with us, whatever that looked like. And there was a lot to it. It was challenging, to say the least. She was 9 when she came to live with us, and was not able to be adopted until she was 13, which means for about 3.5 years, she still had interaction with her biological parents and family. And it was really a challenge. It was super challenging for her. It was, definitely, she was definitely manipulated a little bit with regards to, be loyal to us, or they're not your real parents kind of thing. So she had to work through a lot of that. And the rejection, she was old enough to know, why don't you just do what you need to do in order for me to come home? Do I not mean enough to you? And heartbreaking journey to just watch her go through and to deal with. She saw them twice a week. She did see a therapist once a week as well. But there was just so much emotional stuff to deal with. And frankly, just very candidly, I've said it on previous podcasts, she struggles with addiction today. She is 20 years old. She went back to kind of be with, at the age of 18, you could kind of do whatever. So she struggled, met a boy who introduced her to, I will say, lighter drugs, if that's kind of a thing. And so she ran away and then eventually ended up back with her biological parents, and who, one of their issues was drugs. And so now, she struggles with addiction, and we're here to support her in whatever that looks like. But it's just another example of the challenges of life and the things that we need to be in our best space with. I heard somebody say it recently and just struck me on all the levels, I think, that when you're jostled around, whatever the situation that is going on in your life, but when you're jostled around, whatever is in you comes out of you. And so what I've always wanted to just focus on is love. How can I love better? How can I love my children better? How can I love my husband better? How can I love myself better? How can I love my friends better? What does that look like? Because each one is different. Each child is different. Each relationship is different. So what impacts one, is absolutely going to be different for another. And even if you're familiar with the 5 love languages, then, great. Do they feel your love by gift? Do they feel your love by words of affirmation? That kind of thing. So if you're not, definitely worth checking out that book and kind of, taking the quiz to see where you are, where your spouse is, where your partner, whatever, even your children. Very, very helpful. But all boils down to, am I in a place where I can spill out love? Am I in a place where I can just show up to be my very best today? Legitimately my very best. Not they're doing their best. No. But reaching the potential of my very best today. So what does that look like? So to me, that I talk about habits so much. I talked once before about habits as kind of a lifeline, and that's really that same thought process. I took it as a very broad topic previously, but what I want to focus on in that area today is about self-care. And what does that look like, and how does that enable us to really, I would say, live our best life. I know it's such a kind of overused or cliche or whatever, but truly to live our best life and to show up for other people and living our very best life. And again, especially with kind of all that's going on in the world today, but frankly, maybe it's dealing with a diagnosis of a partner or a loved one, or maybe it is with your child's addiction or your friend's addiction, or maybe it's a job loss, maybe it's financial, whatever the case may be. That self-care is often the first thing to go, and candidly, I think the most important. So what does that look like for me? All right, so exercise, I talk about this. Again, I'm 45. Our kids are, RJ is the youngest, he's about to be 19. I don't know where the time goes, just as a mental note or literal note. I don't know where that time has gone, but our kids are 19, 20, 21, and 23. So, and they're active because we've always been active. So I want to keep up with them. In fact, I just said to our 2 boys, you know that we're going to a park tomorrow in Philly. If they want to go, it's a little bit of a kind of all-terrain. So hiking, running, whatever they want to do there, we're going to be running in it with some friends, and just would love for them to join us. They really like that particular park. So just a chance to get out and get themselves moving, kind of get out of the house when in this moment of time we're not really leaving the house as much, just because of everything that's going on. So with that, exercise, it has to be on a daily basis, in some way, shape, or form, on a daily basis, in order for me to physically be able to deal with all of the emotional stuff that's going on. Because when we are unable to deal with the kind of what's happening in our life, whether it's the stress, just emotional, whatever, it often starts to show up in physical, in your body. I absolutely have had it myself happen. It's just something that we can avoid, but it's something that we so often kind of overlook in ourselves. So to me, just ensuring that I am active, doing that 30 minutes a day. And you guys, that 30 minutes does not need to look like running. I have started running again. The thing that I love about running is that it's so challenging. So if you are someone that says, I've never been a runner, I'm not a runner, I just encourage you to shift that thinking and give it a try. Because a runner doesn't have to be a 6-minute mile. A runner can be a 12-minute mile, a 15-minute mile. It doesn't matter whatever your pace is. And you learn and grow so much in running. You grow strength, mental strength about what you can and cannot do. You grow physical strength for sure as you start to progress and get better, maybe less walking. Start out with 1 minute of jogging and 1 minute of walking, or 2 minutes of walking, whatever. But just progression is a beautiful thing, and why I love running, because I get to see progression in myself, and progression is really my goal for my entire life. So when it shows up for me in running, that to me spurs me on in all of the other areas of my life. So, and I see it. I see myself getting faster. I see myself being able to run more. I am slower than Marty. I'm okay with that. I am not competing against anyone else. I am not judging myself against anyone else. I am only looking to be yesterday for myself. And that so much, when we talk about self-care, just revolves around our mental strength and fortitude. And that's why, to me, the running is such a huge and valuable piece. But that said, maybe you can't run. Maybe there is, just for some physical reason, you can't do it. There's so much more. There's yoga, there's walking, there's riding a bike, there is meditation. Although meditation will help with both body and mind, it's absolutely an option to do. And whether you're biking outside or inside, we love that too. I've talked about the Peloton in the past. Love that option for indoor, but get outside too, and just kind of get in the sunshine, get some fresh air, get some vitamin D. Always helps with that. So your food intake. Now, this is one that probably it falls into that realm of what's right, but you don't necessarily want to do what's right. I am in a place that because I've done the 30 Days to Healthy Living. So Arbonne, you guys know that or actually maybe you don't. I'm not sure how much I've talked about it here. I have a business with Arbonne. It's a health and wellness company, and I'm insanely passionate about it because the culture and company is all about flourishing and kind of doing the right thing, no junk ingredients. It just really aligns for me with so much of who I want to be and what I want to do. In some areas, not there yet, but kind of the potential that I am seeking for in myself. So the food aspect, I've done our 30 Days to Healthy Living program a couple of times now over the last few years, and it's very much about lifestyle and not diet. So there's definitely weight management, but there's also basically you learn how to eat what is good for your body, and you learn what is good for your body. I shouldn't say how to eat, but learning how to distinguish what is actually good for your body. There is just a beautiful thing when you know what works for you and what doesn't. So now I'm at a place, because I've done it a couple of times, that I know and appreciate, I've had a little bit too much dairy this week, and I can feel it in my body. I can feel I'm not sleeping as well. I can feel the slowness. I can feel the inability to recover from that exercise as quickly as I normally can. So just know that there is, listen, if you want to pursue that, if you want to pursue that in order to find out for yourself, hit me up. For legitimately crazy passionate about this, because it's worked for me, and I'm not a diet person. But the most important thing is that truly now I know that the dairy doesn't work for, too much dairy doesn't work for me, or too much, even that my body, and dairy may be perfectly great for you, but my body works best when I have fewer servings of meat per week, like animal protein, that kind of thing. Even though I go to the organic kind of grass-fed aspect of it, I can still have some. But if I have a lot, I know it because I start to feel it. And I know my body because of the program well enough that I instantly feel it. I instantly feel that lack of energy, or again, I know right away when I'm not sleeping well. If I wake up kind of in the middle of the night, or I'm tossing and turning, whatever, I know, or just my digestive stuff, like my digestion isn't working as well, I know. So this is a critical space. And when I talk about self-care and why I'm so passionate about this aspect of food, it is because I was absolutely in a place where it just wasn't, I was feeling like all the ugh and didn't know why, didn't know how to fix it. And it was absolutely rolling into every other area of my life. Absolutely. Into my relationships, into how I showed up for work, into how I showed up for other people, into my ability to get out and move my body, into my abilities to just think a little bit more clearly. It absolutely, food can either heal you or it can hurt you. And this is a pedestal that I could be on for so much longer. But again, so passionate about it because I've learned and seen the difference. So I would so encourage you, if you take away anything from this podcast today, absolutely start to think about and look at, what your food intake looks like. And so eat the rainbow, do your whole foods, eliminate the inflammation triggers. There's so much more. Really, you guys, just message me. This wasn't at all gonna start out with me talking about Arbonne, but I cannot scream it from the mountaintops enough what a difference it's made in my life, and it's actually the very reason why I started a business with Arbonne. So if that tells you anything, really. But drink your water. I think we know for the most, well, I think we know some things. I think we know to drink our water, and I think we know, like, eat your vegetables, but I think that's probably the extent of it. There's so many kind of fad diets and whatever that are so easy to get caught up on, but it's all about lifestyle and doing what's best for your body, because truly we really can heal a lot of our body. I've seen a tremendous amount of healing in my own body, really because of the things that I've learned on the program, because I know what works for my body, because I know that, to pull off from the dairy a little bit. I know how much, of certain foods I can eat and I can't eat. So if nothing else in the self-care space, your food is number one. All right, so your mind, I say your food is number one, and I almost say your mind could tie that, but your mind, in order for your mind to really show up in its best space, our food needs to put our body, our immune system, our physical self into our best space. All right, but mind. Yeah, social media, your screens, take a break. Gosh, there's so much going on. I have felt so emotionally heavy about what is going on right now with, again, if you're listening live, with everything that's happening with George Floyd, just taking a look at myself. You guys, personal growth is hard. I've talked about this before, right? It's hard to look into yourself and just see, is there something that I should be doing differently? Can I do something better? And we cannot get to that space if we are not detaching for a moment. If we're just overwhelmed emotionally and heavy with that all the time, or kind of distracted by our screens 24/7, then we never get a moment of quiet. We absolutely need downtime. We need alone time in order to just function kind of as well as possible. It's critical for us to detach a little bit. Not only because our creativity is much greater when we are quiet, when we don't have something kind of in our face, or just talking at us all of the time, or instigating, not in a negative way, but instigating or inspiring or whatever thoughts and pathways. We don't get to be quiet and really listen to ourselves, to who we are, to what we could even do about a situation. It just gets overwhelming and we kind of shut it off and too much, and I have to just defry my brain from it all. So I'm gonna binge Netflix for a couple of hours and then go to sleep, and it's kind of, all of that is the worst thing possible. I think that if we're really going to make a difference, if we're really going to be able to reach our potential in our life, then we need that alone time and that quiet time. And even if you want to just say, listen, all of the successful people do it, the quiet time, so maybe there's something to it. Even if that's your only reason for doing it, then do it for that reason. I know that you'll be a better person for it. I know that you'll be able to reach that much closer to your potential for it. But even if you are just doing it because you think like, oh, you know what, I want to be more successful in my job, which is not a terrible thing, then I'm going to, take some time in the mornings and have that quiet time, whether it's meditation or prayer, whatever that looks like for you. The prayer is critical for me, but it's the whole thing. The quiet time is just critical. Reading books, I talk about that a lot, the value of reading books. I think I said it in the last one, read 10 pages every day and you'd have a few dozen books read by the end of the year, or 1 to 2 dozen at least. And what could your perspective be then? How much smarter could you be then at the end of it? Each day it wouldn't make a difference, but gosh, at the end, you'd be so much better for it. Just, decompress. Give your mind and yourself a moment to decompress and just take those steps towards kind of who you're meant to be here, instead of just being a follower of everything that's going on around you, or just watching life from the sidelines. I think that quiet time really enables you and allows you to bring your best self forward and get in it. And two last things that I'll mention are sleep. Sleep is very much, for me, tied into health. I notice the difference, absolutely. But the sleep is so critical for how you show up in just your sharpness of your mind, everything, your ability to move your body, your ability to kind of be functioning and listening. If you're not sleeping well, then you're really not listening well. You're not working well. You're not really doing anything well because your mind is always tired. And the last thing that I'll mention is the 5 people that you surround yourself with. So big for what it is that you do day in and day out. And if the people in your life don't believe in self-care, then you won't be doing it. You will be you'll end up kind of dropping it off. You'll end up devaluing it, and just by nature of habit, hanging out with the people around you. If their habit is not to do it, then you'll start to lose it. So I just really encourage you to keep that self-care as sacred and recognize the importance of the people in your life knowing the value of self-care. It's really everything, and frankly, encourage it in those around you, because then they will get to show up better in their lives with and for you, and then completely, when it has nothing to do with you. So I definitely say encourage those around you to do the same. Gosh, what if each of us just took all of those things and implemented those habits and started to just really pull in love, so that when we're jostled around, we are showing love instead of maybe a lot of what's going on in the world today. There is a lot to be hopeful for because of what is going on in the world today. So much to be hopeful for. But I think our self-care really cannot lose ground. It cannot lose value, and it cannot lose a place in our life, whether things are crazy busy or there's nothing going on. It absolutely just makes us better people. So with that, again, it's habits as a lifestyle, specific, exclusive to self-care. I hope that this just has helped you. Maybe it's just a reminder to you today to just re-engage in your own self-care, or just giving you ideas to shake it up and maybe bring a little bit more self-love and care into your own life. So with that, always, I hope that you thrive here. It is the reason why it's called Thrive Here. I hope that you thrive here and just are better for it. Thank you so much.